Finance Act 2023 is the fourth in the series of legislative amendments to be enacted by the federal government on an annual time frame. The passage of the act reinforces FG's commitment to making incremental changes to Nigeria's fiscal framework that continues to be pivotal in achieving economic growth and sustainable development imperatives. The change introduced by the act are intended to improve tax revenue, align changes in the prior acts to ensure tax equity and consistency, reform tax incentives regime for companies, and improve tax administration. Let's get an update on what's been happening since September 1st. I have a lawyer and a manager with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Mr. Emmanuel Akpeme. He's also a friend of the house. Thank you so much. It's good to have you in the studio this Friday.
Thank you, Tolu. It's always a pleasure having these conversations with you.
Thank you so much again. My friend is a lawyer. Yeah, I introduced him as that. So, like we're saying off record, it's really a time for lawyers at this time.
It's a very, very trying time.
I know. I can imagine. Let's get to business and look at the Finance Act, which is now effective, of course, according to law. It's effective from 1st September. But in your opinion, what are the thorny issues regarding the implementation? Or do you think it'll just be a smooth sail?
Thank you, Tolu. So I recall about 8 months ago,
yes,
we had this
conversation
here when the law was still a bill.
Yes.
You know, the current Finance Act was still a bill and just before the president. And how time flies. So we are here again to now discuss the act now in its effect, coming to effect, right? So yes, the act is, the Finance Act 2023 has gone through a whole lot of processes, and one would just think that upon coming to effect, as based on the executive order that the president signed in about 3 months ago, that it will just be a smooth sail. But there are a bit of some issues that might come up even as the implementation has started. And I will just highlight some of them.
Okay.
One of them will be about reporting, the financial reporting. There might be a bit of a snag between the understanding of both the tax authority and the taxpayers about when the reporting of these particular provisions of the Finance Act will commence, particularly on the tertiary education tax. I've seen a publication, public notice from the FIRS that mentioned that for the TET, it will commence for accounting periods that ended on the 1st of September or after 1st of September 2023. Now, if you look at it, what this presupposes is that if an accounting period is ending on the 1st of September, it is accounting for period prior 1st of September. If it's ending on the 1st of September. So what it means is that they are making this Finance Act 2023 to be retroactive. And there is a judgment of the Tax Appeal Tribunal that says that tax laws generally, if it is not expressly stated in the law, should not be applied retroactively. So to my mind, I would have felt that the accounting period that the Finance Act 2023 will become applicable to, like the TET, will be for accounting periods that are starting, not concluding from 1st September, but are starting from 1st September 2023, or accounting period that spilled into September and beyond, so that you now have a form of proration of the periods that spilled into 1st September and beyond. So that might be a little bit of challenge in terms of implementation. Secondly, there's the aspect of the Capital Gains Tax Act. So this Finance Act 2023 has amended the Capital Gains Tax Act and introduced digital assets to be subject to CGT. Now, how do you implement it? So do you remember that the CBN is still is yet to lift its instruction to banks to help or aid the transactions on digital assets and cryptocurrencies.
True.
Now, how do you go to enforce to ensure that people who are trading in digital assets, which includes cryptocurrencies, are made to pay CGT on the gains that they get from transacting on cryptocurrencies? And then there's also the need for harmony amongst the regulators. The SEC is singing a particular song, which is that they have a guideline on digital assets, and the CBN is singing
Another song.
So there's need for harmony if that provision is to really have its way. And then finally, I want to also say that there is another issue, and that is the issue of excise duty on services. The Finance Act 2023 imposes excise duty on all services. So Tolu, when you go to cut your hair, it's a service. Your barber should charge you an excise in addition to the fee. That is what Finance Act 2023 said. In fact, it said all services are to be subject to excise duty, including telecommunication services. So the point now will be, with the current situation in Nigeria, do you think the president will want to impose excise on all services? The good thing about the law, about this Finance Act 2023, is that it gave the president the discretion to fix the rates. The rate was not stated, so it gave the president the discretion to fix the rate. So it is unlikely with what is going on, even with the fiscal policy reforms and tax reforms going on, it's unlikely that the president will want to add excise on all services on Nigerians again. But that's the law. And so these are some of the issues that might impact on the implementation of the Finance Act 2023.
With this you've identified now, looks a little bit technical to me, I must say, but of course, I got the point at the end of the day. Do you think this act will achieve its objective, what it's set out to achieve?
Okay, so Finance Act 2023, as I mentioned from the start, the journey has been bumpy.
Yeah, it has been.
If you recall how it was passed by the National Assembly to lose sometime in December 2023 and 2022.
Yes.
There was no room enough for consultation and for the public to really share their views. And within 48 hours or so, it was passed by both the Senate and the House of Reps, and it got to the president. And it's lingered with the president till May, if you remember, May this year. So we should now go back to what even is the objectives, or what are the objectives of the Finance Act? There are principally two objectives, and that is number one, to aid revenue generation, and number two, to update or amend obsolete tax laws. Now, if you look at the point about increasing our revenue generation, which is one of the key points, and if you look at the history of the Finance Act in Nigeria, you will see that the Finance Acts were always enacted to support or to go along with the budget.
The budget, yes.
So that it will aid in supporting the implementation of the budget. Yeah. But now we've seen a Finance Act that is becoming effective on 1st of September. The Appropriation Act 2023 is almost concluded.
I get your point.
So if this Finance Act 2023, which was supposed to be like an enabler to the budget for 2023, is only becoming effective in September, 9 months after, what will be the relevance to supporting the budget, which is one of the objectives of coming up with the Finance Act? It's a fiscal tool that helps to the implementation of our Appropriation Act. So on that score, I would say that that objective may not be achieved because this particular fiscal year is almost getting to an end. But on the aspect of updating our laws, to bring our laws to come to align with present-day realities, yes, it is, especially this aspect of digital assets. So things have changed, right? And so it has brought our laws to align with present-day realities. So on that score, yes, the Finance Act 2023 will achieve the purpose for that.
The present government is seeking to boost revenue and targeting tax to GDP at 18%. I know other African countries are doing pretty well, 15, 16, South Africa, Kenya, and all of that. What role will the Finance Act 2023 play in this revenue drive?
Thank you, Tolu. So the Finance Act 2023, again, just speaking to what I said earlier, if that tax to GDP of 18% is for fiscal year 2023, that will be a tall order because we have barely 3 months or 3 months plus to go for this fiscal year. So if it's for this year, no. But I read it, and that's target of 18% is in the course of 3 years. Is over a 3-year period. So if it is on for that, yes, the Finance Act 2023 has some foundation, right, to build on. although there are provisions that seems to be in conflict, and there are some provisions that may need to be amended in this particular finance in the course of these 3 years to achieve that 18%, right? But for this year, it will not really aid to a large extent the achievement achieving that 18%. But as the president said, over the course of 3 years, yes, we can. It can further help. Maybe next net financial fiscal year, yes, we can see it. But again, there are some provisions that are in conflict. Again, maybe because of the way it was passed, it seemed hurriedly, right? So once those conflicting provisions are removed or amended, then it will be a good starting point towards achieving the 18% tax to GDP.
I spoke to an expert and he said that 18% should even be the starting point. I should be able to even do better than that. We're looking towards that. We really need to.
I agree, Tolu, but that is in the course of the 3-year period. If it is for the fiscal year 2023, it will not, because we only have about 4 months to the end of this fiscal year.
So that's also something very important. But what would be your view generally about the Use of Finance Act so far in Nigeria as a country? Do you really think this is the best for us?
Thank you for that question. Somebody I respect so much gave an analogy about the Finance Act. And he said that the Finance Act is like somebody who had a 1946 car and has been amending and making a whole lot of
repairs and all.
Updates, repairs. And in fact, the engine is now a 2015 model. The doors, they are now a 2020 model. The brake is now another model. So you can't even recognize the car when you see the car. That is how the Finance Act is. So we've been like sort of patching our tax laws over the last 4 years, right? I think now is the time for us to do a general overhaul and just let us, instead of this annual passage of Finance Act, let us do a general overhaul of our tax laws and see what are we actually bringing to bear. What should we do? Because the annual enactment of Finance Act leads to uncertainties, and that is not a good pillar of taxation. One of the canons or pillars of taxation, great taxation, best practice, is that there should be certainty. If I want to come into your country to do business, I should be able to forecast and to predict that, okay, next 4 or 5 years, this is what I want to do. But not coming in a particular year, and the next year, I had envisaged that I will be paying a tax of 25%, and now the next year is now 50%. So it brings in some form of uncertainties. So at this point, it will be good to really do an overhaul. And that is why I'm very happy about the job that the current Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms are carrying out. So that let us even see what will happen and let the best tax laws for Nigeria be given to us.
So in your thoughts, what will be your expected outlook for our tax system as we move on, if all of these reforms come to fruition?
I think one of the major hindrance or snag about our tax laws is data. Yeah, so the outlook for me would be for us to really look at how we get data. Because once we're able to get data of Nigerians, we'll be able to track the income of Nigerians, and that's when the tax implications on those income will then come into effect. So the outlook, what I'm looking at is for a better tax database for Nigerians, so that there will be better tax tracking.
The issue of when we talk about increasing the tax net, there's always this formal and informal sector, and this argument has been on for some time. I'd like us to wrap up maybe on that note. How more can we do? What more can we do so that we don't necessarily increase tax that some of us are already paying? Those that are not paying, how can we bring them in instead of maybe increasing what others are taking? So some say it's the informal sector, the formal sector. How do we merge all of this?
So it boils down to the issue of data.
Again,
because how do I know that the person in the informal sector is even earning up to the point
amount to be taxed?
So it
I
is
get your
about
point.
data. So if we're able to get the data, the point is let those who are to be taxed, let them be taxed. Let there be any form of tax evasion should be ruled out. So if you get to the threshold to be taxed, then you should be taxed, because it will amount to inequity for those in the formal sector who maybe are earning 100,000 monthly, 200,000 monthly, and they are paying taxes, but the person in social market is earning millions monthly, but the tax authority is not aware that this person. So for those who are petty traders and micro who don't meet the threshold, yes, they will be exempted or the rate will be low. But if you get to the threshold, you should fall into the tax net, and that is what most of us are talking about. That if you reach the threshold, then you should be taxed. You should not evade tax, and that's where data is also very important.
I must thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Akpeme. It's always interesting having you in the studio discuss these issues. Lawyer, manager, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thank you, and do have a great weekend.
Thank you, Tolu. Always a great time having these conversations with you.
All right, then.